All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to talk about the 49ers. We'll talk about a couple of their stars on offense, Brock Purdy and Brandon Aiyuk. So Brandon Aiyuk has been making some news lately. Um, John Lynch, their general manager, he was asked about the whole, trade rumors and things like that. Well, he basically said, and this, again, we probably talked about this on a previous show. Well, I know we definitely talked about Aiyuk on a previous show, but yeah, he dismissed the rumors of trading Brandon Aiyuk, indicating that Aiyuk isn't available for trade. He did have a conversation with actually Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin recently at Michigan's Pro Day, where Tomlin inquired about Aiyuk, but Lynch assured him that nothing is happening regarding Aiyuk. Because I was reading the article. Tomlin was saying, "What's going on over there?" And Lynch was saying, "Yeah, he's not up for trade." But Brandon Aiyuk did post something on social media. Just another cryptic post from a wide receiver. So he posted on his Instagram. He had a dollar sign, someone talking, a bull, the number two emoji. No, not the number two like the number, but the other number two, and then someone walking. And this is what in the article, the emoji translators. So it's money talks and expletive walks. So you got the bull and so you know what I mean. Aiyuk is really just saying, you guys got to pay me. So we'll see how that all plays out. The 49ers are actively engaged in discussions with Aiyuk to find a way to keep him on the team. Lynch emphasized the team's commitment to drafting, developing, and retaining homegrown players like Aiyuk, highlighting the importance of rewarding players who flourish with the team. Aiyuk has been a successful draft pick for the 49ers, posting impressive stats and earning recognition as a second-team All-Pro. Now, Lynch didn't completely rule out the possibility of trading Aiyuk in the future. He made it clear that Aiyuk remains a priority for the 49ers. They are working towards keeping him on the team. So again, we'll see what ends up happening. Aiyuk is playing on his fifth-year tender for $14.1 million, contributing to the team's cap considerations. So again, we'll see what ends up happening. But again, Brandon Aiyuk posts another cryptic social media post. And he's basically saying, look, you could say that, but I want to get paid. And that's really what it comes down to. And are the 49ers going to be able to do that? It's going to be tough, though, because, again, I said this about the Bengals with T. Higgins. I mean, you're not going to be able to keep everybody. So the 49ers may ultimately have to make a tough decision and trade him. I could definitely see that happening. But, again, where would he end up being traded? I mean, who knows? The 49ers are coming off of another, Super Bowl loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Another tough season, or another tough ending to their season. They've gotten so close so many times, and they just keep coming up short. And, again, John Lynch says we don't want to trade him, but, they might have to force their hand and trade him if they're not able to agree to a new contract. And that would be a big loss, because Aiyuk has been a productive player for them. I mean, you go back to his rookie season making plays, and then the beginning of 2021 was interesting because I remember, at least from a fantasy perspective, everybody, including myself, was all over Aiyuk. Everyone's like, wow, he's going to have a great year. And at least in the beginning of the season, people were saying, where is he? He's not been doing anything. He actually did end up finishing the season with 826 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. So he did finish the season strong. And then the next 2 years, 8 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards in 2022, then 1,300 yards in 2023, and 7 touchdowns. So, he's been productive. And, he's a part of one of the best offenses in the NFL. With him, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and, of course, acquiring Christian McCaffrey in 2022 at the deadline. That was huge. And, this team was very close to winning a Super Bowl and, again, came up short against the Kansas City Chiefs. So, again, this is something that we are going to keep an eye on throughout the whole offseason, or as the offseason progresses, as we get, towards next season. But, it's going to be interesting. The 49ers, they're going to try their best, but ultimately it might come down to just, yeah, it's not going to work out and they might have to trade him. So we'll keep an eye on that. But the other thing, too, is they're excited about Brock Purdy's full offseason because if you remember, obviously suffered the elbow injury in the NFC Championship game against the Eagles and, was working his way back. Did end up playing week 1. He didn't miss any time, but, that kind of prevented him last year from having a full offseason. Now he's going to have a full offseason, which they're really excited about. Kyle Shanahan acknowledged that the standard and expectations for him will continue to rise as he establishes himself as a top quarterback in the league. Shanahan emphasized the pressure on quarterbacks to perform consistently and praised Purdy for his resilience and performance despite facing challenges such as injury and limited offseason preparation. Overall, Shanahan expressed enthusiasm about coaching Purdy and believes that he has the potential to continue thriving as the 49ers starting quarterback. So, this is big to get a full offseason for Purdy. With that, maybe, he could be even better going into 2024. I don't know how much better, but listen, as long as he's got all these guys around him and Aiyuk, he's gonna put up good numbers. And again, I thought he played well in the Super Bowl, but ultimately he was going up against Patrick Mahomes, and Brock Purdy is not on that level. But to tie these two segments together, if Brandon Aiyuk ends up getting traded, well, that's a big loss for Purdy. And, I just said, hey, it's great that he's going to have a full offseason. He can go into next season and play even better. But if you lose one of those pieces, that changes the dynamic of the offense. You saw what happened when Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel both got hurt. Brock Purdy and the offense, it was completely different. They went on a 3-game skid. They eventually got out of it. Deebo came back, Trent Williams came back, and then this team got rolling again. But, yeah, for a while there, it didn't look good. And Purdy was getting all the heat for it. And, yeah, it didn't look good. But then they got back on track. They did end up, they lost to the Ravens, and that wasn't a good game for Purdy. He had, 4 interceptions in that game? But other than that, played really well. And, they got to the Super Bowl. Now, again, they had to come back against the Packers. They had to come back against the Lions as well. But, you know what? Give Purdy and the 49ers credit. They could have very easily folded and that was it. But, no, they were able to, overcome those deficits and make it to the Super Bowl. And that's, like I said, Purdy overcoming adversity, and especially in the NFC Championship game. They were down 24-7, and they came back. Again, they could have very easily folded, and packed it in, but they didn't do that. So, got to like I said, got to give them credit for that. But you don't want to lose Brandon Aiyuk if you're Brock Purdy. You don't want to lose him. You want to keep these guys together because this team can win a Super Bowl. It's the problem is it's that team, the Kansas City Chiefs, that you're most likely going to have to go against. And honestly, if they would have went up against the Ravens, the game probably would have been similar to how it went on Christmas. Well, it's tough to say because would Brock Purdy really throw 4 interceptions again? I don't really think so, but I think the Ravens probably would have won. But yeah, the 49ers are a very good team. And they get so close every year. And it's just they can't get over that hump. And they lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl back when Garoppolo was the quarterback. You make it to back-to-back NFC Championship games, you lose to the Rams, and then Purdy gets hurt, you lose to the Eagles. Then you get back to the Super Bowl and you lose to the Chiefs again. What else can they do? I know people blamed Kyle Shanahan for the loss, but I don't really think you could really blame him for that. Again, I think it all goes back to, well, Ray McLeod should not have muffed that punt because the Chiefs immediately cashed in on that. I think that's really who you got to blame. I mean, yeah, McCaffrey fumbles on the first drive. The 49ers, they were going right down the field on that first drive. And then McCaffrey fumbles. They were going to get points out of that. And they also didn't capitalize on, Pacheco's turnover and Mahomes' interception. They didn't capitalize on that. The Chiefs, they capitalized on the not the McCaffrey fumble, but the Ray McLeod fumble. They capitalized on that. So that was the difference in the game. So, and going into next year, you look at the landscape of the NFC. Teams are going to be better. I talked about the Packers, and they're going to be a better team, and them and the Lions are going to be battling it out for the NFC North. I think the Eagles are going to be back to being the team that they were, before the collapse. Again, I still look at the 49ers as the class of the NFC, but it's going to be tougher. The Packers, they almost beat them. The Lions almost beat them. And this was at home. What happens if the 49ers don't get home field advantage? I think they can handle, playing on the road. But, that was at home. If you're playing away, it's going to be even tougher. So, but again, for me, I know it's early, but I still look at the 49ers. They're the class of the NFC. And they're the team to beat in that conference. They are the team to beat in that conference. So, we'll see if a team, dethrones them in 2024, which is possible. Because, again, you don't know what's going to happen year to year. Injuries, a team could come out of nowhere that you don't expect and goes on a miracle run and upsets them. Thought it might have been the Packers. But, yeah, it's, next year, it's a big year for them. Is next year going to be the year that they can get over that hump and finally win a Super Bowl with this group? Again, it remains to be seen. But again, you get to the Super Bowl, well, odds are you're playing number 15 on the other side. So, now again, look at me already declaring the Chiefs getting back to the Super Bowl. But, it's just, it's hard to not think that that's going to happen because, in a year where their offense wasn't great, they still got back to the Super Bowl and they won it. Now, again, look at the Patriots. 2017, Tom Brady had Brandon Cooks and he was putting up great numbers and, he ended up winning the MVP. And he throws for 500 yards in the Super Bowl against the Eagles and they ended up losing. So maybe that happens here with Patrick Mahomes. He puts up great numbers again. Marquise Brown and him, a lot of explosive plays, passes downfield. We see all that again with this offense. The Chiefs look like they're humming, and then maybe they don't win the Super Bowl. Maybe they fall a little bit short and lose to somebody else. It's possible. But, again, this is all, my hypotheticals. So, all right, so we're going to take our final break of the show now. When we come back, we actually will talk about the AFC, more about the AFC. We'll talk about the Ravens and their excitement over getting Derrick Henry, and we'll talk about Derrick Henry's past performances against the Ravens as well. So that's what we will get into when we come back from our final break of the show already. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.